Hello, this is Ty Anderson for Add-in Express. In this video, I will show you how to build an extension for Internet Explorer using the Add-in Express for Internet Explorer and .NET product. Over the course of this video, I'll show you how to add both a custom toolbar and an Explorer bar that results in a customization that looks like this. And for the big finish, I'll show you how to create a setup package for deployment for this solution. So let's get started with the demo. What I have is Visual Studio 2010, and notice too up here in the top left hand corner that I am running Visual Studio as an administrator, and this is important for developing Internet Explorer extensions, that you need to be sure and open up Visual Studio and run it as the administrator, or that you have administrator rights by default on your system. So I'm running Windows 7 with Visual Studio 2010, and I already have the ADX for Internet Explorer and .NET toolset installed. And so I will go ahead and say File, New Project. And we'll notice that in the installed templates under Other Project Types, we go to the Extensibility node where I have all the different templates for Add-in Express. And here what I want to create is the ADX IE add-on project. I'm going to go ahead and leave everything as the defaults on my system for name, location, and solution and say OK. This brings up the new Internet Explorer add-on wizard, which will walk me through the creation of at least the project or the shell of the project inside of Visual Studio. The first screen asks me to, select a language, and I'm going to choose Visual Basic for this demo. And then to select a version for my interop assemblies, I can go version neutral, which would allow my Internet Explorer extension to support IE 6 and higher, or I could just support the version installed on my system, which is Internet Explorer 9. I am going to go ahead and leave it as it is and have a version neutral extension. Now click Next. Next, I have the ability to specify my own strong name key, or my own digital certificate, or I can create a new one. In this case, I'm just going to go ahead and create a new one. If you're ever in doubt, just go ahead and create a new one. You can always specify a certificate for signing in the project templates. So I'll click Finish, and the wizard will go ahead and complete my project setup inside of Visual Studio. Once Visual Studio creates the project, you'll see that we have our project, my IE add-on 1, and we have a resources and a loader folder. We have icons and all this. This is just default. And the main object that I want to point out, though, is the IE module. It's already open for us in the main Visual Studio window. And what the IE module is the core part of the project. It contains all of the components, the properties, etc., that we will specify for the extension. IE module is also the place for writing a lot of the code, and if I switch over to View Code, we can see in the classes or in the IE module's initialization event, we have a note that says please write any initialization code in the onConnect event handler. And the reason for this is that anytime the extension is registered on a system, the IE module initialization constructor method will fire. And if your code's not set up to handle this, you're going to have problems. So what we recommend here at Add-in Express is that you use the IE module. We'll go to IE module events, and we'll navigate over here to the onConnect event, and that this is the place to write any code that would initialize your add-in. And the reason for this is this event only fires when your module actually loads inside of Internet Explorer. And as you can see, we have other events that we can utilize on disconnect, on error, on full screen, all of these things that allow us to respond to events that IE module provide us. Also, too, we have two properties. One is the IE app property, which is the web browser, and we can take advantage of that and access it and respond to its events, and also as well with a HTML document. So let's switch back quickly over to back to IE module design, and this is the designer. And what I want to show too is up above we have this toolbar area, which is the Add-in Express toolbar. I can right click on it and I can say show large icons, which is kind of nice. It gives you a better visual as to what each of these icons are. And this toolbar contains really commands that when you click on them, they are going to insert ADX components onto the design surface. And then we can then click on them and configure them inside of the properties, the Visual Studio properties window. Now this main area right here that we're seeing that says to add components to your class, etc., that is the IE module designer, and it's just the visual design component of the IE module. And then down below you'll see what's called the help panel, which just has some quick links to getting started, some information on deployment, and also quick access to the Add-in Express forums, which are always helpful. And then also too, in case you ever need it and you work with our great support team, you'll see that here's the version number, because will always ask you, hey, what version number are you working with? So that's a quick overview of the project inside of Visual Studio and the different components involved. But now let's start digging in and let's build a few things. We'll start by adding a new toolbar to the IE module. And what we do is I'll right click on my project and I'll say add new item. And inside of the installed templates, we go to the Add-in Express items node under Internet Explorer, and we see everything that's available to us that's supported. And I want to go ahead and select the ADX IE toolbar, which the description tells us it will create a toolbar for Microsoft Internet Explorer, and that's great. That's exactly what I want. I'm going to leave the name as my IE toolbar 1 and click Add. This new item is what's known as the ADX IE toolbar object, and it is a descendant of the WinForm user control. So any .NET control can be hosted by this toolbar control, or the ADX IE toolbar control. I'm going to make that a little bigger, and I'll show my toolbox, and I will add a label, a combo box, and a datetime picker. I'll make the combo box a little larger, and I'll move the label. And in the properties for label, I'll change it to be my toolbar. And for the combo box, I'll select it and hit this little property arrow and say edit items, and I'll just do my own hard-coded values of 1, 2, and 3. And everything else I'll just leave the same. I can go ahead and hide my toolbar and then save my toolbar just by closing it and clicking yes, and that'll take us back to the IE module, where to have this toolbar actually display inside of Internet Explorer, I need to add it to the toolbar items collection, and I can do that by clicking on the edit toolbar items command button. And in here, in the ADX IE Toolbar Collection Editor, what I need to do is add a toolbar item. So I clicked Add, and it creates the ADX IE Toolbar Item 1. That's great. What I want to do here is maybe add some help text to say my toolbar. I want to set load at startup to be true. I do want my command bar or custom toolbar to load when Internet Explorer starts up. My menu text will be my toolbar. And for the gripper, I do want to have a gripper, so the no gripper is false. The position, I'll take the default and reset toolbar layout. Let me make these a little, there we go. So reset toolbar layout is false. The title, I'll say my toolbar. And then the toolbar type, when I click in here, we'll see that I have an object that I can select, and it's my IE toolbar 1, which if we look over here, that corresponds to right here in my Solution Explorer to my IE toolbar 1, and it's prefixed with my IE add-on 1, which is the project name for my customization here. So my IE add-on 1 and my IE toolbar. So that's how that works. And I want to select that and say OK. I'll say close, and that is done. Now let's go ahead and add a Internet Explorer bar, and what we'll do is go back and right click on the project in Solution Explorer and say add new item, and this time we're going to create or select an ADX IE bar, which creates a bar for Microsoft Internet Explorer. We'll leave it as its name as my IE bar 1 and click add. This control as well is a descendant of the WinForms user control, and just like with the toolbar, we can use any .NET control and design it much like we would a WinForm. And in this case, I'll make it a little bigger, and we'll add something like the calendar control. Let me expand my toolbox. We'll just put a big calendar control on it and just to have it host something. And that's going to be really all that I want to do for it here. I'll go ahead and close it and say yes. Now, back in the IE module, what we need to do is back on the toolbar, we want to go to Edit Bar Items, and we'll hit the Add button where we create a new ADX IE bar item. Now, the key component here is the bar type property, and just like with the toolbar, we have it's the project name followed by the class name of the desired bar type. So it's my IE add-on 1, and then I want to use the my IE bar that I just created. So the dock position, I have two choices of vertical and horizontal. I'm going to go ahead and leave this one as vertical. I want it enabled. I'll say for helper text, my IE bar. And for load at startup, I want to go ahead and say true. And the menu text for it, I want to say my IE bar. And for title, I'll say my IE bar. And we also have the option to specify an active icon. And in this case, I have two already loaded. They're preloaded. If we look over in Solution Explorer under the icons here, they're actually defined in there, and it's just by default in this project type created when we created the project. And I'm going to choose the sample icon 1 and leave everything else the same and close this out. And that's it. I now have my bar and my toolbar both configured as I'd like. I'll click Save All, and we'll be ready to demo it. But before we demo it, we actually need to go ahead and right-click on the project in Solution Explorer and choose the project properties. And we'll want to go over here to the debug menu and select Start Browser with URL. And I will just type in the Add-in Express URL. This way, we'll go ahead and it'll open up the browser, load up a web page, and then we can interact and see the toolbar and the IE bar that we've designed. Now there's just one last thing to do. We'll go ahead and build the My IE add-on 1 project. Build succeeded, no issues. And then the last thing we need to do is register the project on our system so that we can run the debugger and have it attached to the browser and watch the code and debug it if we needed to. So I'll go ahead and register the ADX project. And that was a success. So now let's go ahead and run, hit the debugger and see what happens. And there you see, so the Add-in Express site loads up into the browser, just as we specified in the project settings. And then at the same time, we see my IE bar over here in the left-hand side, and also to my toolbar showing up in the browser, just as we would expect. I'll go ahead and close this. And there you see, just already we have two nice custom visual components for a IE extension, and there's really been no code. I've basically just designed some forms and made some property settings. Now that we have an extension for Internet Explorer and that we've seen that it's working, it's a good idea, I think, to show you how you can publish or create a deployment package, because it's pretty easy too. And what you want to do is make sure that you have your project selected in the Solution Explorer, and then move over to the project menu, and you have your choice between Publish ADX Project and Create Setup Project. Create Setup Project will create an EXE type setup, and then the Publish ADX Project will do an MSI based or click twice setup project. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and create a EXE setup project. So I'll hit the Create Setup Project. The new Setup Project wizard opens for me, where I have my choice here of Visual Studio Installer, and if I had Install Shield components available, that would be enabled as well. And the title, description, product name, and company all default to the project name. I'm going to leave them as they are, but if my situation was different and needed to edit those, I would. I'll go ahead and click Next. Now on the second page I have the localization options of the different localization values that I could choose. I'm going to leave it as the default. Same with file name. And then I'm just going to mention that the setup project will actually be created underneath the My IE Add-on 1 project folder. So I'll click Finish. Where now all I need to do is right click on the newly created setup project and choose Build, which will build the XE project. And it's also going to give me a warning about the ADX Loader 64 DLL, saying that the 64-bit loader or Add-in Express loader is not compatible with my target platform of the 32-bit platform or the x86 platform. And this is because Add-in Express setup projects automatically support 62-bit, 64-bit, and 32-bit platforms, and includes a 32-bit and 64-bit loader in your setup project. So since I'm targeting the 32-bit platform, the setup program is telling me, just warning me that this loader will not function. And that's okay because Add-in Express automatically switches out the two loaders for me depending on which version I am supporting. So this video showed you how to create an Add-in Express project and also showed you how to create a custom toolbar and a custom Internet Explorer bar, and then also how to create a setup project that you can use to give your users and allow them to install the application. As you can see, the Add-in Express for Internet Explorer toolset's very powerful. It really simplifies the process of building extensions for Internet Explorer and is much, much better than if you were to try to navigate this using the Internet Explorer SDK alone. So check out the Add-in Express website and look at the different articles available. As with anything, this is an overview end-to-end how to get started all the way down to creating a deployment project, but there's a lot of other resources available on our site.